In this video I'm going to show you how to stuff the pony and sew it together. So I always start with the head and the stuffing goes in through the mouth. So you take your stuffing and you just start pushing it through with your fingers like that and pushing it down. When you've got most of it in, the best thing to do is to use your actual crochet hook to push it all the way down. If you like, swirl it and push as you go. That's the quickest way to do it. And then just pull that. And you don't want to overstuff it, because if you put too much stuffing in, you can see through the stitches to the stuffing, and that's not a good look. So just shape it into the shape of the pony's head as you go along. Adding more if you need some more. You can feel it with your fingers and just look at the shape. I think it needs a little more there. Because it's got to be enough stuffing to hold the shape, but then, as I say, you don't want to overstuff it. So I think that looks good there. So then, if you've bought the crochet kit, it comes with a yarn needle. It's just got a bigger eye like that. You thread the yarn through the eye, and then what you're going to do is sew through all of the stitches and pull it together. Try and avoid picking up the stuffing with your needle, because that'll just make it hard to pull the needle through. So you can kind of press it down with your finger out of the way. That's the last stitch there. And then you just pull to close it like that, nice and tight. And then to fasten it so it's secure, push the needle through and then out through the side of the fabric, and then back through a very close stitch and out through the other side, and pull it not too tight because you don't want any little dents. And then when you're finished, you can kind of just plump out the nostrils a bit, have a look at the shape, and then you get some scissors and just snip that, and then you can just pinch to get rid of the end. And then at the back, that's where we started, you need to just sew that one in as well. So to do that, you just thread the needle again, make sure it's pulled tight so it's closed, and then just push the needle through like that, and then same again, just to make sure it's fully secure, and then just snip it. And that's the head sewn together and stuffed. So now we're going to do the body. I left the last round, which is just decreasing 6 times, just to leave the hole big enough to push the stuffing in. So start like we did before, pushing it in with our finger until it's nice and, well, nice and stuffed but not overstuffed, because I always think crochet looks so much better when you can't see the stuffing inside, and that'll come as you get better. You'll do tighter stitches and also not overstuffing it. You want it to hold its shape, but then you don't want it to be bursting out of the yarn. So when you get to a certain stage, you can start pushing it with your crochet hook. That's what I always do. Just keep shaping it with your hand as well. So we're aiming for a little ball shape. That's the body. It's like a cute little ball. when it's done. Getting there now. A tiny bit more. Okay, so when you get to there, you're gonna finish off, try and keep your yarn tight, because this part can look a bit loose if you're not careful. So I'm just going to decrease another 6 stitches all the way around. That's the last row of the pattern for the body. 3. See, and for this I'm holding my yarn quite tight, because I know that this part at the end can show through the stitches if you don't do it tight. So we're going to end up with 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more. So I've got 7 there. And you pull the yarn through and pull it through. I've left a long tail so that I can sew the head on. And then what you're going to do is the same that you did with the horse's head. Just close the circle by sewing through all of the stitches. Now, I always think that this part should be the horse's bottom, so when you've finished and you've closed it and pulled it tight, because this is the long bit that you're going to use to sew the head on, you need to get it across to the other side of the ball. So I think because that's where we started, that's always a neater circle. So I think the head should go here. So if you get this end and sew it through until you get it to where you want the head sewn on. So if you look at it, I always think where it looks a little bit flatter there, probably that's where I'm going to put my head. So I'll bring it out here. Just try and get it through the stuffing. It can be a bit tricky, but there you go. And then I'm just going to close this bit off. So that's just the starting place with a bit of yarn. So I'm just going to sew that in so it's out of the way. And then snip that. And now we're ready to sew the head on. Right, sewing the pony's head on. So if you look at the picture there, it's just back a bit from the starting point and then on top. So try and eyeball it where you think it should go. I've pulled my yarn through there, so it's going to be a flat bit there. Go up like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 rows up in the middle, and just place it on top so you can kind of see the shape that it's going to be. If you put it too far that way, when the pony stands up, it'll keep trying to fall that way because it'll be too top heavy, so you have got to push it back a bit more than you'd think. So what I then do, I mean, you can use pins if you want to, that might help you get it in exactly the right place, but I just look where I want it to be attached there and then push the needle through. And once you've got that first stitch in place, it'll be much easier. I've left quite a long tail here, it's probably too long. Snip some of it off. And then go back through again, and that'll make sure it's in the right place, and you can just focus on doing tight stitches then. So let's have a look at it. Yeah, are we happy with that? And then if you have a look at it, you want to try and get as many stitches as you can along there, all around really, but pulling them tight so that you can't see the stitches. So what I do is I find a hole in the fabric, push my needle through, and then out the other side, pull it really tight, and then directly underneath I put my needle through and out again, try and keep it into the holes, pulling it tight, going through the holes like that, really trying to secure it as many times as you can. You can just work your way all the way around like that. So I'll continue and I'll meet you back here when I've done that. So I've gone round and round until I feel like it's secure and I'm happy that it's secure enough onto the body, and then look at the front, make sure it's not off to one side, you're happy with the position, and then you poke the needle through and just fasten it off like we did before. Okay, so now we're going to put the ears on. So the ears look like this when you come to put them on. You've got the bit where you finished it, where you started from, so that needs to be sewn in just so it's out of the way. So using your needle, if you've got a little bit sticking up there that you're not happy with, you can thread the needle through that and it'll kind of tuck it in. Just push it down the ear, don't pull it too tight, make sure it's not too tight, and then just thread it backwards through to keep it secure, pull it through and then snip it off out of the way, so then it makes it easier for you to attach it to the head. And then when you put the ear on, you can just have a look where you think it looks best, but I would suggest in the pattern it says attach the ears to the head around row 6. So row 6 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, around there. If you look, maybe forward one, depends how it's come out, because this is really what adds the character to the pony. So I pop it where I think it should go, then I just fold it forwards and hold it like that. Ideally you will have threaded your needle first, but I didn't. So look, I'm still pressing it down with my thumb so I'm not losing it. And then when it's like that, have a look at that row there, stick your needle through a hole in the fabric like that, pull it, and then just go along that row, pushing it in to the stitches and through the head and out, keeping the yarn close together. Like there where I've come out, that's too far away because you'll be able to see it, so I'm going to go back in and out a bit closer, and then up through a stitch, and then same again, trying to pick up the stitches on that side. And then when I get to that point now, I'm going to have a look what the ear looks like. So now I need to come through the front and pick up the front stitches at the bottom of the ear. So I'm bringing the needle to the front, and then I'm going to try and pick up these stitches, put my needle through and push it down and out the back. And you probably have to come back to the front again. This is just so that you can't see the stitches. You want to try and make it look like it's all part of the head. It hasn't been sewn on afterwards. And if you've got it wrong, just take it take it off and start again. That's my advice. You don't want to put the ears too close together, or I think they look like a rabbit. You don't want that. So just try and make sure you've spaced them out on the head correctly. That's it, that'll be my last stitch now. So if you fold it a bit, gives it a bit of shape. Have a look if you think it looks secure. I think I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to push my needle through and out the back, and then just through again, and then snip off the end, and that's that ear done. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the other ear. So what I'm going to do is just make sure it's equally spaced like that and sew it on. Okay, so now we've put the ears on, it's time to sort out where the legs are going to go. So your legs should look something like this when you've got to row 12. So you're going to stuff them. Until they're fairly, like pushing the hoof so it's flat at the bottom. And push the stuffing down. Keeping the hoof quite flat at the bottom if you can. Don't over stuff the legs. You need to make sure you leave enough to be able to flatten the top like that, because then we're going to just crochet it shut along the top. So you put your crochet hook in the loop. You can sew it shut as well if you'd prefer to do it that way. But then I just put my hook through that loop and then straight across to the other side. Yarn over and pull through, and just crochet along the top like that, going through all of the stitches to shut it. And that also gives you a nice flat edge for sewing. So that's why it's important that you leave a long tail, because that gives you enough yarn to sew it onto the body. Okay, so if we look at the picture on the pattern, the kind of a leg at each corner so it stands up, leaving a little gap in case you want to make a blanket with a belt so it can go underneath. So it's just positioning them, and you'd have to try and get it right, otherwise they might not stand up very easily. So if you look at the body and try and work out where you think the legs are going to go, once you've got them all like that, I think looks good. So you're going to sew that one there, and then turn it over and do 2 on the other side. So if we start with that one, when you've positioned it, it's probably better to pin it if you're feeling a bit unsure. Look at it from the front as well to make sure it's in the right place. So hold it flat, and then you're going to just go through the stitches like we did before, picking up the stitches on the leg and through the body as close as possible so that you can't see the stitches. So if you look at the top now, there's about 3 stitches left to make sure you've gone through. And then if you leave it just like that, that might be a bit too flappy. So what I tend to do is go back under, come out just underneath. Whoops, I've lost it. This is a bit short actually. So come back just underneath in the middle, probably a stitch away from where it is, and then push it through there just to kind of hold the leg to the body a bit more so it's not as flappy. And then see, just go across to one and just secure it, push it out. You might want to go back through and do another one. I'm really running out of yarn, but I've got enough of this. So when you get through the other side again, just secure it off. Hopefully you'll have left yourself more of a tail than me. And then you can snip it. And you might want to, before you put them on, sew that end in so it doesn't get in your way. So go ahead and do that with the other 4 legs, and then meet me back here. Okay, so when he's sewn together, he should be able to stand up like this on his own. So just making sure you've sewn them so the feet are the right length. Just see it as kind of a square underneath, and remember the head's quite heavy, so you might want to move them out a bit, but that's really good. It's standing up quite nicely. When you put the mane on, sometimes it gets a bit heavier and it might start trying to do that, but it should be quite sturdy if you've managed to get the legs evenly spaced. Don't worry if you don't think it looks like a pony yet, because it's going to make the world of difference once it's got its mane and tail on, and then the little hooves that you can crochet onto the bottom, which looks super cute. But yeah, that's the pony sewn together.